this is Nigel. He, remember, has been speaking to us for the last few days, getting us his account. Nigel, how are you? How are you doing now? And what is the plan?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. The plan is in the next 5 to 10 minutes to attempt to go to the airport to catch a military plane.
The airport, Nigel, now is open. You know, we have also seen a team of the Indian evacuations that already has happened. The Taliban is also at the airport. What do you know? I mean, is the entire airport right now under the control of the Taliban?
That is my understanding. We heard reports this morning that some people had been refused to fly. Some Afghan nationals had been refused to leave the country, and they were returned back to their homes, or they were forced to leave the airport.
Okay, and Nigel, what is it that you have again seen or heard? Because, you know, you've seen the situation rapidly change and unfold in the last 2 days. How has it been in the last few hours?
So this morning when we were on the streets, it was not as busy as it would be, but there was activity. Shops were open. There were women on the streets, just with hijabs, not burqas. They were not accompanied by male, the mahram. We heard that schools were back in session, girls grades 4 and 6. And we've also had reports that I believe there were some female staff that were asked to return to work.
Nigel, you're telling us shops, the markets have been open. You're saying you've seen children going to school. You've seen a lot more women without male companions on the road.
Yeah, I've seen the women in the streets. I haven't been to the schools. That was reported to me by some of our staff.
And Nigel, you know, I want to also talk a little bit more about the big picture. We've heard Biden speaking yesterday in a late night address. He's putting all the onus on the Afghan government, and he says it was them who were not able to fight the Taliban. You believe that version?
No, that's a terrible statement. He should be disgraced. He should be, yeah, that's a disgraceful statement.
And Nigel, what has your experience been like, you know, in the state? Considering, you know, you're of the Norwegian Afghan committee, you people have done a lot of tremendous work on ground zero. You know, given an opportunity, would you want to come back? You know, if I can ask you if you would still want to stay there, and you hope that the Taliban would allow all of you to continue your work?
Well, up until now, we've been working with the Taliban in other areas for the last year, in some of the more rural areas. And up until this point, we've been asked to continue. I do plan on returning if that's possible. And I do plan on, you know, supporting the Afghan people and our Afghan staff in carrying out those projects. And I think it's really important we do that. And I'm really hopeful that we will be able to continue to do that, including all our programs, education, healthcare, farming, all of them.
And what about women, Nigel? You know, we have seen a lot of women out there on the streets today protesting. A lot of them actually are standing up, you know, that face of resistance to the Taliban. You're also telling me that you've seen many of them on the roads today without male companions. What really does this really, you know, tell us about the days to come?
Well, you know, we can try and be hopeful. It is a good sign, but we also know the history, not just in this country, but in other countries when different governments come to power and they start with one level of governance, and then that progresses into other levels of governance. As long as we engage, as long as the media engage, as long as the organizations engage, neutral partners, we want to encourage the UN to be involved, to monitor and hold governments accountable for what they are doing to their people.
And Nigel, in the line of what has happened, and because I asked you this because you have worked on ground zero, you've spent such, some amount of time there. What do you think is the best case scenario that we could be looking at, vis-a-vis Afghanistan, vis-a-vis the people, the locals there?
Best case scenario is that all Afghan people are treated with dignity, respect, their human rights are honored, they are able to go to work, support their families, get education, and for the first time in decades, live a life that's not just full of stress. It's a real tragedy. Has been a real tragedy, and let's hope it improves.
Yes, and you've been getting us so many touching accounts. I think of the last 3 days. You also told us more of a lot of those long queues outside the ATMs. When you went out today, is the situation any better? Are the locals being able to access, go to shops easily? Are they able to withdraw their money? Food supplies, is everything fine? Electricity, internet?
Well, the interesting thing is, in terms of electricity and power, we've had a longer time in the last few days of city power than we've had in a long time. So that's one thing. In terms of food shortages and queues for the ATM, I can't really speak to that. I have been told that the banking system will be up and running by tomorrow. But today I wasn't aware of any lines, which is not to say that there weren't any. I just wasn't in those parts of town.
And Nigel, I do know that you need to leave for the airport, but in just 10 seconds, anything that you would want to recollect or say to the people of Afghanistan before you leave?
I just want to say that you are not alone. The people who are trying to stay here and trying to work here and support you, we too are embarrassed by our government's decision. We will return home and try and lobby our congressman, anyone we can, and hopefully we will return to support you and continue this work. And we do have hope for the future. And I know that's hard to cling on to, but right now that's all we have.
Nigel, those are very reassuring words, words full of hope. We'll pray along with you for the people of Afghanistan. Thank you so much, Nigel. Stay safe, stay good. You have a safe flight.
Thank you. And thank you for continuing to cover this situation.